I'm Allie Knight, your LPGA and PGA certified instructor, and this is Chipping 101. Let's talk about what chipping actually is. Chipping, also known as a bump and run, is a lower shot. It's going to be when we're up closer to the green and we kind of do this putting style swing with an iron like a pitching wedge, and it gets that ball up in the air barely and then it rolls out. That's why it's called a bump and run. Just up in the air and then rolling on the ground. It makes it easy for those short little shots around the green to get it as close to the hole as possible. Your grip is one of the most important fundamentals that you're going to learn for the game. Where we're going to start, if you're a right-handed golfer, take the club. We've got to have two knuckles on top of your left hand being on the end, and this right V pointed to your right shoulder. Then you take your right hand, you can either baseball it, interlock it, or overlap it. I like interlock. You cover up that thumb of your left hand with your right hand, and you point your V, so you got the V here and the V here, to your right shoulder. Make sure the club face is straight when you're doing that, and then you've got your grip and you're ready to get started for a good golf swing. The first thing we need to talk about when we're chipping is what club to use. Really, in chipping, you can use almost any club, like an iron, to chip with. The difference is just going to be the loft. So the loft of your club, which is the angle here, is going to send the ball up higher. So a wedge, like a sand wedge or a gap wedge, a higher degree club, is going to send that ball up higher versus something like a 7-iron or a 6-iron, which is going to make the ball go a little bit lower. So just a general rule of thumb, usually most people will start with something like a pitching wedge to do their chipping with. So let's start with that club. The next thing when we're chipping is our stance, and our stance is very important. How we want to be set up is your feet are actually going to be closer to each other versus wider. So you want a narrow stance. Once we have that, you want to have the ball in the middle of your feet. Your ball position is important and it can vary, but just to keep things basic and simple, ball position in the middle. From there, you want to have your weight on your front side. So you're going to feel like you're kind of leaning into that left hip or that left thigh a little bit. And with that, then your hands are going to be just a touch in front. I like to think of it as the end of the club is pointed to your left hip. That gets our hands in front of that club head so our chips can be more consistent when we take our swing. When we actually take our chipping swing, we get our stance. The most important part is that you hit the ground. We need to make sure we are sweeping the ground because that is going to get the ball up in the air. So many times people hit it and the ball stays on the ground and it goes a really far distance and they think, oh, I've hit it too far. But actually, we just didn't make solid contact, which is the most important. And the way to make solid contact is make sure to get a good solid sweep and hitting the ground some, so then that loft of the club can get that ball in the air. The next part on our swing is that we want to make sure our wrists stay very locked when we're doing this, just like we did in the putting. It's very similar. We just go back and through, no wrist, and hitting the ground. If you can do that, you're going to be consistent. The distance control is also dictated by the length of our swing and the tempo of our swing, just like putting. So we want a good tick-tock tempo swing, and if you need to hit it further, you can do a bigger swing. Or that's when you can go down in loft and go to a 9-iron, go to an 8-iron, and that can help your distance control if you have a longer chip. So using and picking what club kind of goes back to the beginning can help dictate what shot to hit for your distance. When we are chipping, it's very important that we sweep the ground, right? But when we sweep the ground, we want to sweep at the ball and hit the ball first and then the ground. It's very common that people will sweep, but they sweep too far behind it. So this is a great drill to help with this. All it is you take a towel, usually everybody has a towel on their golf bag, you lay it on the ground, and you can practice hitting in front of that towel. You know you've hit behind it if when you come down and you hit that towel. So it'll kind of look like this. You just put the ball about a club head in front of that towel, get your setup, and then you can get that solid chip when you're out there practicing. Use this to help get that solid contact on your chipping. A great drill to make sure you're hitting the ball solid and right in the center of our club face for our chipping, which is very important, is all we do is you can put down 2 clubs or 2 alignment sticks down on the ground, kind of like a little small railroad track. We get set up and we got to hit the ball in between those 2 sticks. You know that you're hitting it off the heel or off the toe of the club if you've hit one of the rods or clubs down on the ground. So you take your setup and swing and go right down that perfect path in between your 2 rods. If you can do that, you're going to hit very solid chip shots.